Alright, so in this little exercise, then all we're going to be doing is just practicing picking on string 6 twice, doing the palm muted kind of effect, and then going down to string 4 and playing that once not palm muted, just like we did in the first example where we played the riff from Apple Shampoo. And to start off with, if you look at the tab, all we're going to be doing is just picking those notes open, okay? So with this hand, just hold the back of the neck, don't hold down any strings or frets, and the riff will be like. Okay, so obviously that's pretty boring. What we need to do now is put some notes to it. Now, if you were trying to write a riff, you might think, that's my sort of picking pattern. Now, how do I actually get some notes that are going to sound sort of good in that pattern? Well, like we saw in the first example when we played Apple Shampoo, is basically just power chords, okay? So if you just take a look at the tab now, that's the power chords we're going to be using, okay? So the first shape is like that, and what we're going to do is we're going to play this power chord shape twice, and then we're going to move up to frets 5 and 7, play that twice, go down to 1 and 3, play that twice, and then back up to 3 and 5, okay? So these positions, so it's okay, so they're the power chords we're going to be using. But again, like we saw in Apple Shampoo, it wasn't actually playing the chords like, what it was doing was picking some notes out of those chords, okay? So again, if you look at the tab now, it's going to have updated for you. It's going to go back to the picking pattern where we were going. Okay, but all it's done is replace those open notes with the power chord notes, okay? And if you remember, we're just going to take off our ring finger, so we've just got 2 fingers on the neck like this, and again it's there, then 5 and 7, then 1 and 3, and back to 3 and 5. So okay, so that's a riff, and it's basically started off like, which obviously sounds pretty rubbish. Put some notes to it like we've just done. It's taken us 30 seconds to do. Okay, so that's like a pretty basic but quite decent sounding kind of pop punk riff there then. And something else that Blink do then, a lot of the riffs, as we've seen in the other examples, is to use things like your hammer-ons and your pull-offs, okay? So if you just take a look at the tab now, all I've done is add a basic hammer-on, okay? So the riff's going to generally be the same. It's going to be okay, but then when we go down to 1 and 3, what we're going to do is, sorry, this time I'm using my ring finger, okay, to play the riff. And then what we're going to do is put our middle finger onto fret 2, string 3, and then when we do the, instead of just playing straight onto fret 3, we're going to play fret 2 and hammer on. Okay, so okay, and I've just done that twice like it says in the tab, alright? So and then to finish off, that pattern again. So right from the start then, if you look at the tab, try and follow it along, and play along if you can do it. Here we go. Okay, so you hear the diddle diddle. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to getting to see the picture now of how Tom writes his little riffs. When you listen to them in the record, they do, like some of them do sort of sound pretty complex and pretty complicated. And again, when you see him in tab, like if you remember the tab for Infused, it was really confusing. But if you break it down, it's basically just your power chord shapes, and it's just picking different notes out of those power chord shapes, okay? So that little riff that we've just created ourselves, again. And if you didn't know any better, you might think that little riff we've played was actually a Blink-182 riff. Practice your different sort of picking patterns, that kind of thing. Choose some chords and just pick them basically, and try and do some little hammer-ons and pull-offs just to make it sound a little more interesting.